We are moving into council time from the Board of Health meeting. And as you know, this is March 23rd, a Wednesday, and it is now 9:05 a.m. as we move into council time. We'll begin with old business and approval of the minutes for March 16.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes for March 16. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
The motion is passed. And new business, there are two proclamation requests. Lindsay, is this one under your leadership?
Sure, I'm happy to discuss this one. The first one is Child Abuse Prevention Month. This is one that the council historically has done every year. And so I'm happy to answer questions, but like I said, we've done this one every year.
Council Chair, I have no questions about it. I'm happy to move it forward.
Very good. And you as well, Councilor Medvigi. So we'll see that on the agenda. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to segue off of Cap. I assume that was a motion to move it forward by Councilor Lentz. I would like to see it move forward as well.
Very good. So it's agreed unanimously to move it forward, scheduled for April 5. And then the National County Government Month. How about that one, Lindsay?
This is one that we haven't done every year, but we have done previously. So the National Association of Counties, more commonly known as NACO, does their National County Government Month in April every year. And they have a different theme each year. And this year is how communities thrive, particularly kind of following the as we're hopefully coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic and recognizing the work that counties across the country have done throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, ensuring that communities are healthy and thrive. So this would be a proclamation designating the county, or designating April rather, as National County Government Month here in Clark County.
And if I could just add something, this I do believe is really important as well, because it does recognize our employees who have dedicated their career currently and formerly with Clark County. And so it is a formal recognition of what they do for our community as well.
Lindsay?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want that to say $315 million or?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, we will make that change. So there's not the dollar sign in front of that. Yes, 315 million Americans. Yes, thank you, Oliver.
Council Chair.
Okay. Hearing no objections, we'll
Yeah.
move that forward as well to April 5. Thank you. And now we turn to the Clark County Arts Commission MOU. Lindsay?
Yeah, so I was just waiting for the document to be pulled up. So what this is in front of you, this is an MOU that would establish a relationship between the Clark County Arts Commission, the Columbia Arts Network, and the county. So just for a little bit of historical background, the Clark County Arts Commission, because of their role as a board or commission, they are not a nonprofit. And so they can't receive financial donations. They can't spend money in the way that a nonprofit can. And so currently what happens is that their commissioners have to spend essentially money out of their own pocket, or receive donations, spend money out of their own pockets in order to be able to manage their galleries that they do and the other work that they perform. It's not a whole lot. It's probably less than $1,000 in a year. But right now they don't have the ability to do that. The Arts Commission previously had a relationship with another nonprofit. That relationship was dissolved a couple of years ago, and the Arts Commission would like to have a new nonprofit in that place to fulfill that financial role. So the Columbia Arts Network, or CAN, has stepped up to offer to do that, and this would be the MOU that would establish that formal relationship. It doesn't add any requirements to the county. There's nothing additional that we would need to do. So I didn't see any policy substantive concerns with this, but happy to answer any questions. The question before the council is whether you would want to approve this. And I don't know if this is one that we would approve here or we'd need to move to a Tuesday meeting. I don't think there's any urgency and we could move it to a Tuesday meeting.
Lindsay, if I might just jump in for a sec.
Yes, please.
My understanding, because this agreement has been reviewed by our office, is that we are still sort of working on it. There's a couple of tweaks we need to make. So at this point, I don't think it's appropriate to take a vote today, but we can certainly have it ready for the next time that the council wishes to look at it.
Thank you for that reminder.
So that would be a future Tuesday meeting, undesignated at this point. Okay. Questions from the council or comments?
Yes, Council Chair.
Yes, Councilor Lentz.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing this forward. I'm supportive of it moving forward, and happy to hear that there's still a little work on it. As I was reading it, a question that I have is that at midway through the document, I think there may be a little inadvertent interchangeability of the Arts Commission and the county, and I would just want from legal a close read to make sure that the right acronym is being used for some of the responsibility in there to make sure that the county is retaining control of anything that may have longer term impact than the operation of the Arts Commission. And you will all be better suited to that than I. So I had a couple of questions about a couple of points, but knowing that you're still working on it, rather than worry about that, I'd love to just see kind of what the final legal approved version is. A question that I have for Kathleen and Lindsay is what staff relationship and liaison relationship will we have with the Arts Commission? I know that when it was founded, it was sort of set off without a lot of staff support and kind of off on its own. Is that still the case, or do they have a little bit more contact with county staff and leadership?
So this MOU wouldn't change the existing setup. So what we currently have would remain.
Is there a plan for checking in both for accountability purposes, but also for support to ensure that they continue to have what they need and that everyone is still operating on the correct course?
There's not a plan to check in on that, but there's also nothing that prohibits us from doing so.
Okay, I'd like to see that. When I came onto the council, there were some issues, and some of those were related to specific individuals who are no longer involved with either organization. But it did feel like there could be some better support, not necessarily a fully assigned staff person like some of our more quasi-judicial commissions have, but a little better contact between the county as an agency and the Arts Commission as an agency. And since that's fully in executive and operations, I don't want to micromanage that, but I'd recommend having a little better contact just to ensure that everybody is staying on course and getting what they need, and that problems don't crop up that we weren't able to see early on.
Councilor Lentz, with regard to your first point, I had actually noticed the same thing, and would kind of point to the new Roman numeral 2, where the header is about Clark County obligations, but it seems to be focused on the Arts Council. And then also, let's see, the fourth whereas on page 1, it has odd wording, I think, relative to the Arts Council and then the county. So if I know you'll be looking at the whole document, Leslie, in that regard, but maybe those two areas included, please. Other comments from council? Anything else? Councilor Medvigi, do you have anything?
I'm not on that issue. I just happy that it's still being worked on and that we'll get it completed soon.
Okay, thank you. So by way of conclusion, then, legal will be continuing to take a look at this document and it will be made ready for a future Tuesday meeting. Counselor reports, are there any? And thank you, Lindsay, for your report on those new business items. Are there counselor reports?
I have one issue that's related to a council report. In our last council report, I had discussed the meeting that I had with Lindsay and Comcast and trying to move forward with a public-private partnership on getting broadband throughout the county. I had also mentioned that the Port of Kaminista-Washougal is doing very similar work. In fact, they're going to have a meeting with Comcast themselves. And there are other providers out there that I would encourage to get on board and look at all the state and federal funding and what we can do in public and private partnerships. So to that end, we had decided that there was going to be a staff report prepared once Comcast had made their more specific proposals. And then we were going to have a work session on that. What I would ask, and I know we don't have Julie here, but that the port be able to participate. David Ripp as the CEO and maybe one of their commissioners, because, you know, not just in the audience to lurk and listen, but to have the ability, if they have comments, to also provide them. So I know that's from time to time we have outsiders do presentations. I'm not asking for that. I'm just asking that when we do have that work session, that we do open it up to especially the Port of Kaminista-Washougal. That is because they are working on exactly the same issue we are.
Good. Are there other council reports?
Council Chair.
Yes, Councilor Lentz.
Yes, last week had the opportunity it was a very busy week last week, and on Friday afternoon was the Regional Disaster Policy Organization that is a 5-county collaboration for Oregon counties and Clark County, and a lot of the work being done right now is on wildfire preparedness. That's work they've been doing consistently, but with the season shortly coming upon us, they're continuing to do more collaboration and work on that. Don't really have any big news as far as they've solved the problem and everything is going to be okay, but the work is continuing, and it's always heartening to see the 4 counties working together very well, especially the crisis staff, the leaders of the emergency response organizations. On our side, it's CRESA, really doing a lot of work to ensure that there can be sharing of resources, knowledge, and expertise, because as we know, sometimes these things hit all of us at the same time, but sometimes one area is hit more strongly than others. So it's great to know that there are collaborative resources constantly in motion. Also, on Thursday and Friday, this isn't exactly county business, but it's relevant to Clark County in general. I serve on the state's Freight Mobility Strategic Investment Board, and we held our meeting this month in Vancouver. And so the city of Vancouver was a wonderful host, and we had a couple of tours in addition to our regular business meeting. We did a tour of the port, and the Port of Vancouver was wonderful on that. We got to see a lot of the progress there. I personally hadn't taken a tour of the port in a few years, so it was amazing to see everything that is happening there, and recommend it to everyone who hasn't taken one recently. And then we also got a tour, a walking tour of the I-5 bridge, which was honestly terrifying. That we walked out on the bridge, went up to one of the machine rooms. We didn't go all the way up because apparently that is not recommended when it's a little wet out. And after climbing some of the stairs on the bridge, I understand why. But it was historically interesting and also strategically interesting as far as our work to get that bridge replaced, to see it up close and to hear from the people who operate the bridge about how it works. So that was interesting. And we also, trying to marshal more resources for that bridge replacement. It was good to get some of our freight mobility investment folks from across the state to see what we're working with here. We had the Secretary of Transportation down, everybody talking about how we can try to move forward on a replacement productively for this bridge. So it was good to have folks from across the state down here looking and seeing what we're dealing with on the ground. So thanks.
Thank you. Hearing no further councilor reports, we move to, I'm sorry,
Madam
it
Chair.
looks like you have one, Councilor Medvigi.
Yeah, so I just want to circle back because it wasn't a rhetorical question. And I think staff needs to know whether or not the other councilors support having the Port of Kaminista-Washougal participate in that work session at any level beyond just being in the audience. So that really was a question to both of you as to whether you would support them participating.
I certainly have no objection. Is there a discussion already about when that's going to be scheduled, Kathleen?
No, because it's my understanding we're still waiting for the proposal and detailed requests from Comcast before anything can be scheduled. So there's nothing specific to discuss yet.
So just the update on that, that's correct. I did receive an email from Comcast. They asked for some mapping information, and I got them connected with our GIS staff for that mapping information that they need. She also noted that this week is Oregon spring break, and most of their staff are in Oregon, so a number of their staff are out this week, but she's hoping to have more information next week.
Do you have objections to the port being present and commenting at that work session, Councilor Lentz?
No.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And Lindsay, you did remind me that RFP on Lake Vancouver for Senator for Nick Cleveland's, I'll call it an earmark for a study of Lake Vancouver. That was going out today.
Correct. That's going out today. Yes.
Super. Thank you so much for that hard work, Kathleen and Lindsay.
And if I can, Chair.
Further councilor reports?
Chair, if I can just ask a quick question as well on the broadband discussion. Councilor Medvigi and the rest of the council, do you want Comcast to be at that, be present during that conversation as well, since it is their proposal, in case there's more specific questions for them?
Well, I think it's vital that they be there, but I also don't, if there are any other providers out there like Noctel and some of the others that have reached out to not only us, but the port, we're not excluding any particular private vendors. I mean, and I understand you sent the letter out to all the known providers in local to the region. We're encouraging other providers to participate too, if they're interested. But at this particular meeting, if Comcast is the only one that's made a proposal, then I would suggest that they be invited.
Are there further councilor reports? Moving then to work session requests.
Chair Bowerman, you're muted.
Oh, it's just bouncing off and on. It's kind of going crazy over here. Thank you. I think it's okay now. So we now move to 4.1 work session requests, and there is one before us for the Housing Option Study and Action Plan. Actually, a fairly comprehensive report it appears to be, because it is requesting 90 minutes, if I recall. I don't see it right now, but I believe that was right.
Yes,
Comments on that?
I can just share quickly, Chair, that if you remember, the council did appoint a project advisory group back in January 2021 to look at this plan, to understand the issues and come forward with recommendations. So they have completed that process. This is in preparation of your hearing on this and to obtain council feedback and potential next steps. They are also scheduled to go to the Planning Commission on April 21st. And so they will also be sharing their recommendation from that meeting as well. And it is scheduled for up to 90 minutes. Desired date would be in May, which is after the Planning Commission hearing.
Comments from council? You've got
Supportive.
a couple of 3 thumbs up there. So we look forward to that in May. Lindsay, policy issue reports?
One thing I wanted to circle back on is the congressionally directed spending, or the earmarks. Senator Murray has requested her earmark proposals requests to be completed by April 5th. So when I discussed this with the council, a number of kind of things that had previously been council priorities came up on that list. The jail, body cameras, the third bridge, Vancouver Lake. So these are all things as potential requests for an earmark. Now, I will say with an earmark, as you know, this isn't a competitive grant process that is done on the basis of substantive criteria. There's a lot more politics involved than substantive evaluation here, compared to a typical federal or state grant process. And that said too, I mean, we can make as many requests as we would like. There's no cap on that. However, realistically, this isn't something where jurisdictions often get multiple requests. So it's often better to narrow it down to a small number, usually 1 request, that then you can follow up directly with the Senate staff. So this is just specific to Senator Murray. This is not Senator Cantwell or Jamie Hura Butler's offices, but we could make similar asks of them as well. So I wanted to see if this is something that the council wants me to do 1 or more requests in advance of that deadline. So I'm bringing it up now. We can come back at the next council time to finalize. Like I said, it's not due till April 5th, but wanted to kick off that discussion here today.
Comments from council? What earmarks come to your mind that we have already talked about that would be apropos here?
The best requests are usually the ones for which there is already a defined dollar amount. That defined dollar amount is relatively small. Of course, in the scheme of the federal budget, you're talking bigger than the state budget. However, federal earmarks historically have never been more than 1% of discretionary spending or discretionary spending. So you're still not talking massive amounts of money. Usually for a Senate request, you're going to be looking at something that has a statewide benefit or a statewide impact. So for example, the known amount that we have for 179th is something where there's a federal, like there's a statewide benefit in terms of improvements to the I-5 corridor as a whole. However, when you really drill down on the project, we would be asking for money for the county roads. So I don't know that that's going to necessarily get across the finish line, but that would be the type of thing where we know the defined dollar amount, there's a planned construction schedule, and it has a statewide impact potentially. Something like Vancouver Lake, where it would be relatively small to say we're going to have the funds at that point to be able to look at the next steps of the lake management plan. This is something where you have multiple jurisdictions involved, and often federal money can help in those situations where one jurisdiction shouldn't bear the entire responsibility of it all. So those would be 2 that would come there, but certainly body cams is something that can be funded through this process. The jail could be funded, a portion of that through this process, but those are the body camera issue is one where jurisdictions across the state are going to be asking for that, and there's more politics involved. And then on the jail issue, earmarks are often last dollars. And so it's, unless you're getting money for a study or you're getting money for planning and development, which is really a defined pot. But in terms of, well, it'd be nice to just have money and put it in the bank and then we'll add to it later, those often aren't funded. And local county jails aren't typically funded through a federal earmark either. So just, but again, you can ask for anything you like. That's just my recommendation in terms of what's most likely to be funded. And again, all of this is unlikely to be funded. Getting an earmark is not, there's no guarantee, and it's usually not granted.
So, Madam Chair, can I follow up on that? Lindsay hit on most of the topics that we had discussed in our one-on-one between us. I can't remember if we talked about the dash cams and body cam program, but that was more in the context of our representative to go back and find out what was happening. But, you know, the 179th interchange, I-5 corridor, it's a regional issue and we do have a deficit of funding. I don't know where that ended up. I don't know if we're still crunching numbers from the original accounting. That didn't seem to be very accurate. You know, Lake Vancouver was another big one on my list because I think it's going to take ultimately the Corps of Engineer to really come into play. And that's going to take both our Senate and House to really move that issue along. So the third one, that one, Lindsay, that you didn't mention was, and I didn't mean to say third, but other corridor planning, rights of way. You know, we really need a funding source for the greater metro area, and that would be by state. It's a regional, but with impact throughout the West Coast to improve the corridor that is now served by I-5. And I am including 205 into that. So looking at federal money with a federal interest in the strategic corridor, north-south from Canada to Mexico, we really could ask and tee that up for them to sponsor funding to get this planning done in earnest, not just by the county, but by the state and for the bi-state area. So I'm hoping that we can tee that up as an issue as well for her to consider at the Senate level.
Lindsay, I would be extremely supportive of the body cam area, that topic area, but not just for one-time funding, because we really need ongoing earmarks for the ability of the county to support that from a staff perspective in an ongoing way. So use your judgment on that.
That's something you can ask for. Earmarks are just one-time funding because they're earmarked within a budget. And so it is a certain amount of money within that budget. So it's all earmarks are all one-time funding.
Yeah, and therefore I don't find this a particularly lucrative source for that.
Council Chair.
Yes, Councilor Lentz.
Yeah, I'd be supportive of putting the planning need for Vancouver Lake forward as an earmark request. I think that we know that we need a management plan for Vancouver Lake, and we know that we aren't really sure where the resources for that are going to come from. It seems like a viable proposal and one that may stand some chance of being funded. So I'd be supportive of putting that through as a single request.
And if you need support on that, Lindsay, you've got another vote here. And I see a third head nodding. So
I will go ahead and put what I hear is the Third Bridge and Vancouver Lake. So I will go ahead and put together the application materials for those two items and then bring that back to the council to review before I submit them.
Very good. Thank you so much.
That's all I have today. Thank you.
We now move into executive sessions, plural. We have 3 today. They total 35 minutes. There's potential litigation authorized under RCW 42.30.110(1) Section I for 5 minutes, 1 under the same authorization for 10 minutes, a third under the same authorization for 20 minutes. Council will be present for these executive sessions. And Leslie, is there any action after?
Yes, Chair Bowerman, for the 10-minute pending litigation, there will be after action for the council on that particular item.
Very good. So it is 9:35. Let's count on being back by 10:15, and we'll look for that after action at that time. We will move now into executive session, and thank you all so much. See you there, councilors.
Hello, the council has extended executive session for 5 more minutes and will return at 10:20.
Looks like we're all here, Kathleen. We are coming out of our executive session on Wednesday, March 23, back into council time. Is there a motion from the executive session, please?
Madam Chair, I would move to approve the proposed One Washington Memorandum of Understanding between Washington municipalities relating to the opioid distributor litigation and authorize the county manager to sign the agreement on behalf of the county.
I second the motion. Is there discussion from council? Comments? Hearing, I'm sorry, go ahead, Councilor Midbidgy.
I'm just hopeful that we can get to the end of this and see these additional resources locally in the county so we can help address and ameliorate this awful crisis. So I'm looking for local jurisdiction and direct attribution of that money to our problems. I support this fully.
Further comments? We'll take the vote. All those in favor of the motion before us to have the MOU signed, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, the motion is passed. This now leads to the adjournment of council time for Wednesday, March 23rd. Best wishes to all.